I'm upset with Pastor Gabby and Andrew that they left me to be the last one. But let's give it up for all of these preachers. I'll be preaching on the final principle, Imani, and my text is Hebrews chapter 11, verses 13 through 16, followed by verses 39 through 40. All these people were still living by faith when they died. They did not receive the things promised. They only saw them and welcomed them from a distance, admitting that they were foreigners and strangers on the earth. People who say such things show that they are looking for a country of their own. If they had been thinking of the country they had left, they would have had the opportunity to return. Instead, they were longing for a better country, a heavenly one. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared a city for them. Verse 39, these were all commended for their faith, yet none of them received what had been promised, since God had planned something better for us, so that only together with us would they be made perfect. I want to preach briefly from the subject, reclaiming the faith of the black atheist. Reclaiming the faith of the black atheist. I want to begin by a simple observation, yet that may be the pink elephant in the room, that all black people are not Christians. All black people don't go to church. And the church does not have a monopoly on faith. But I yet want to argue, going back to Reverend David Telford's principle about unity, is that if we are going to be a unified people, we must also remember the faith of the black atheists. Walking the streets of Harlem is not just the ghost of Adam Clayton Powell, not just the ghost of the great churches of Harlem, but also walking the streets of Harlem is the ghost of many of our ancestors who never stepped foot in a church. And if we are to move forward together, we must reclaim the faith of the new Negro. It was Alain Locke, that great philosopher, out of the halls of Howard University, that left Washington, D.C. and moved to Harlem to attend Columbia. And at the height of the Harlem Renaissance, he published an anthology titled The New Negro. It was the Harlem Renaissance that was given the nickname, the movement of the new Negro, because black folk for the first time had the ability to create their own name, to create their own identities. And so they came to Harlem. They came to Harlem and gave birth to new poetry. They gave birth to drama. They gave birth to a new song. And some of them were most creative outside of the church. Now you may argue, why would I talk about the faith of the black atheist? Because I want to submit to you that there is still more that we have in common as black Christians with black atheists than we have as black Christians with the white Christian. You may not understand, but it was the black atheists walking the streets of Harlem. Langston Hughes, Zora Neale Hurston. It was the black atheist, Claude McKay. It was the black atheist walking in Harlem that first saw the connection between the cross and the lynching tree. What I'm trying to tell you is, it was the black atheist who did not go to church on Sunday who said more about the cross and the lynching tree than the preacher who was in the pulpit. And in our text, I want to submit to you just for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, that the real measure of faith, beloved, is not determined by what you believe. It is determined by the willingness to make a decision. Soren Kierkegaard said, you ought to dare to decide. And if I could submit one suggestion to your book list for 2020, it is that we ought to begin, as Reverend Bird just said, we ought to expand not just our reading list, but we ought to expand our theological canon. You ought not know more about the Jewish history than you do about your own history. And while I'm on it, stop sending me text messages about signing a letter from the governor. You'll get that. I got one this morning. You know exactly what I'm saying. Faith is not about what you believe. It's about a willingness to decide to make a difference. When I read Isabel Wilkerson's The Warmth of Other Suns, there was one passage that I want to share with you, and I want to sit down. She writes in that book that the Great Migration gave birth to a new chapter in the history of our country. But there was one sentence that caught my attention. She says, people as diverse as James Baldwin, Michelle Obama, Miles Davis, Toni Morrison, Spike Lee, Denzel Washington, and many teachers and store clerks and doctors were all products of the Great Migration. We are all the children whose life chances were altered because a parent or a grandparent had made the hard decision. The question must be raised, what must we learn from the faith of a new Negro? I got 2 minutes left. One is faith is learning how to make a decision. We spend so much time going back and forth. We spend so much time going back and forth. But grandma would say, let your yay be yay. And when you make a decision, you join God. When you make a decision that you will not accept a low sacrifice, you will not accept second-class citizenship, you will not spend more hours at work and still get less pay. You make a decision. But not only that, faith is learning, oh my God, learning how to leave and let go. And some of us did not learn about faith until we left our own churches, our own families, our own mentors. Some of us had to unfriend the Sunday school teacher. But faith is learning how to leave and let go. But lastly, one lesson out of this text, I didn't even get to the text, I only got 10 minutes. Faith is learning how to live with the longing. That sometimes the thing you pray for will not come to pass. You may not see the dream come true in your lifetime. But your children and your children's children will be blessed because you've made the decision to leave and let go. I'm done, but the story is told of a grandmother who left the country of Williamston, North Carolina. And all of these years, she saw the big catalogs coming out of Chicago, of that great city somewhere up north. So one day she decided to pack everything that she had to go to this city. She didn't know anybody there, but she left grandma and her mama and her sisters and went up to this city because she heard that they had opportunities up there. There was a job up there. So she got on a Greyhound with her fried chicken, with her potato salad, with her dinner rolls, and she made it all the way uptown on this Greyhound bus into this city. So she drove up through Halifax and Virginia. She drove up through Baltimore and D.C. and she drove up through Newark, New Jersey, and she finally got to the city. Everybody else was gone. And when she got to Jersey, she looked and said, what is that thing right there? The bus driver said, that's a tunnel. She said, I ain't never seen one of those down there. He says, yeah, but in order for me to get you into the city, I got to go through the tunnel. She says, I'm not going through no tunnel. Take me on back to the cotton fields of Williamston because I'm not going through that tunnel. He says, ma'am, we've come all of these miles to get to the city. She says, turn me back around. He said, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm not going back to Williamston. He says, I got to get her to this city. So they kept riding around Jersey, and she fell asleep. And when she fell asleep, he looked back, and he drove through that tunnel. When she got to New York, she said, what's all of these lights? Where are we? He said, you were longing for a better country. You said that you wanted a better place for your children and your grandchildren. She said, I said all of that, but I told you I'm not going through no tunnel. He said, well, when you went to sleep, I drove through the tunnel, to bring you into the city. I don't know about you, but I thank God for the faith of a black atheist. Because sometimes in your moments of silence, when you're sleeping, when you don't think God is even speaking to you, God just puts you to sleep in order to take you into the city. The faith of a black atheist. There are some things I may not know. There are some places that I cannot go. But I am sure of this one thing, that if God is real, yes, God is real. I may have my questions. And all I want you to know tonight, as I'm done, because I'm done, I'm out of time. But if we are really serious about Kwanzaa, as black people of faith, we must take the questions of our questioning brothers and sisters seriously. They don't know about a Jesus that they can trust when they've been taken advantage of in church. And so we must treat the people's needs as holy, that we might get to the city together through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.